sister's obsession with my husband went too far. We cut her out forever after she tried to seduce him at her own wedding. Hello, I'm Layla, a 32-year-old graphic designer with a penchant for vibrant colors and clean lines, both in my work and in my life. However, despite my efforts to keep everything around me neatly organized and harmonious, there's one aspect that remains frustratingly chaotic: my relationship with my younger sister, Delaney. Delaney, at 30, is a freelance writer whose life seems to spill out of the pages of the dramatic scripts she loves to create. Known for her flair for the dramatic and an affinity for the spotlight, Delaney's behavior has always been a stark contrast to my more reserved and structured demeanor. This difference between us, which once fostered a complementary sisterly bond, began to sour when Victor entered my life. Victor, my husband, is a 34-year-old software engineer whose calm and logical approach to life was the perfect balance to my creative impulses. We met during a tech conference where I was leading a workshop on design in digital spaces. Our connection was instantaneous, a meeting of minds and hearts that quickly deepened into love. But as our relationship blossomed, so did Delaney's resentment. From the moment Delaney learned about Victor, something shifted between us. It wasn't just that she thought him charming, or that she too had found him attractive in a fleeting way many do when they meet someone new. It was deeper, more possessive, as if she believed she had some prior claim to him, a claim based on a brief interaction they had shared before Victor and I even met. Over the years, her behavior has oscillated between cold detachment and overt flirtation towards Victor, each phase punctuated by moments that range from uncomfortable to outright distressing. Despite her having her own string of relationships, her fixation with Victor has been a constant undercurrent, eroding the trust and closeness we once shared as sisters. Now, as I sit here reflecting on the tangled web of emotions and events that led us to this point, I realize just how much Delaney's actions have impacted not only my relationship with her, but also my marriage. It's a rainy Tuesday evening, and I find myself staring out the window, watching as the raindrops race each other down the glass, each following its own erratic path, much like Delaney's unpredictable intrusions into our lives. I can't help but feel a mix of sadness and resolve. Sadness for the sisterly bond that could have been, and resolve because I know that for my own peace and the health of my marriage, something needs to change. Growing up in our small but cozy home, Delaney and I shared more than just a room. We shared secrets, laughter, and dreams. However, as we transitioned from carefree childhood into more complex adult lives, the dynamics between us evolved in ways I couldn't have anticipated. While I focused on building a career in graphic design, Delaney's path was less straightforward. Her passionate nature led her through various creative endeavors, each accompanied by a whirlwind of emotional highs and lows that seemed to define her. Delaney's tendency towards drama wasn't just a personality quirk, it often manifested in jealousy and manipulation, especially when it came to relationships. I remember noticing it first with our high school friends, but never imagined it would one day affect us so directly. The tension between us began a few years back, not long after I met Victor at a tech conference. Victor, with his quiet charm and keen intellect, was immediately interesting to me, and as we started dating, I felt I had found someone truly special. What I didn't know was that Delaney had met Victor briefly before he and I became a couple. They had encountered each other at a local coffee shop, where they shared some casual conversation, one that left a lasting impression on Delaney, it seemed. It was only after Victor and I were officially an item that Delaney revealed her feelings for him. I still remember that evening vividly. It was during a family dinner when Delaney pulled me aside, her expression serious. "Layla, I have to tell you something important," she began, her voice tinged with a gravity that immediately put me on edge. "I think I'm in love with Victor. I met him before you did, and there was something there, something real." Her confession shocked me. It was not just the content, but the intensity with which she spoke. Victor and I had already become quite serious about our relationship, and hearing that my sister harbored feelings for him was both upsetting and confusing. Victor's reaction when I relayed Delaney's words was one of discomfort and surprise. He remembered the meeting with Delaney but had thought little of it. A brief, pleasant interaction, nothing more. "She's your sister, Layla. We need to handle this delicately," he said, always the voice of reason. We agreed that setting clear boundaries with Delaney was essential, not just for our relationship's sake, but to preserve family harmony as much as possible. The fallout from Delaney's confession wasn't confined to just the three of us. It rippled through our family. Our parents were put in a difficult position, seeing the strain between their daughters over what they hoped was a misunderstanding or a fleeting crush. However, Delaney's demeanor towards Victor didn't change. If anything, it intensified, straining the trust between us even further. I was torn between my loyalty to my sister and my love for Victor. The situation demanded a choice, and with Victor, we decided to maintain our boundaries firmly. We limited alone time she had with him, and Victor made it a point to be transparent with me about any interaction, no matter how small, that he had with Delaney. But the confession was only the beginning. Over the years, Delaney's attempts to draw Victor's attention became a recurring theme that cast a shadow over our family gatherings and strained my marriage in ways I never expected. One particularly unsettling instance occurred during a Thanksgiving dinner at our parents' house. As everyone engaged in light-hearted banter around the table, I noticed Delaney continually finding reasons to brush against Victor whenever she passed by to refill her glass or fetch more food. Her touches were subtle, likely unnoticed by others, but to Victor and me, they were glaring. Each brush sent a clear message, and her lingering looks towards him didn't help. Victor, increasingly uncomfortable, tried his best to shift his attention and physically distance himself, which only led Delaney to try harder. The situation escalated during Christmas the same year. We had all exchanged gifts, and Delaney's gift to Victor was a book, The Art of Seduction. It was an odd choice, provocative and loaded with implication. When Victor opened it, his bewildered look met my gaze, and we shared a silent moment of frustration. Delaney simply smiled and said, "I thought you might appreciate the psychology in it, Victor. It's fascinating, really." Her tone was innocent to an outsider, but the insinuation was not lost on us. Her attempts weren't confined to public displays. There were texts, messages that she'd send him late at night, which Victor showed me. They started innocently enough, but often veered into inappropriateness. "I can't stop thinking about how things might have been between us," one read. Another said, "Do you ever wonder what it's like to be with someone more adventurous?" Victor replied neutrally, trying not to fuel her fire, but each message wore on him, on us. Each incident chipped away at the trust and peace within our marriage. While Victor never reciprocated Delaney's advances and remained open with me about every interaction, the constant need for vigilance was exhausting. We found ourselves analyzing every exchange, every gathering, and it brought an element of tension into our relationship that was hard to shake. We confronted Delaney multiple times, hoping to resolve the tension. Each confrontation was met with denials and downplaying. "You're misinterpreting things," Delaney would argue, her voice laced with feigned surprise and innocence. "I'm just being friendly, you know, like I am with everyone." But her actions spoke differently, and it was clear she was not ready to acknowledge the impact of her behavior. The family's reactions were mixed. Our parents, ever the peacemakers, seemed torn. They suggested that perhaps Delaney was just being her usual flirtatious self without any real harmful intent. "She's always been a bit dramatic," our mother would say, trying to brush off the severity of the situation. On the other hand, our Uncle Mike, who had always been observant, supported us openly. "Delaney needs to respect your marriage," he told us after one particularly awkward family barbecue. "It's not right what she's doing. You two are handling this more patiently than many would." Despite our efforts to keep our marriage insulated from Delaney's actions, the repeated need to defend it was taking its toll. Each flirtatious act from Delaney, each denial, each family member's well-meaning but misguided dismissal of the situation added layers of complexity to our relationship with the family and with each other. Victor and I had to learn to communicate more deeply, to hold on to each other amidst the turmoil, and to continuously affirm our commitment in the face of Delaney's relentless attempts to wedge herself between us. It was a battle I never anticipated fighting, especially not within the bounds of family. The news of Delaney's engagement came as a welcome surprise to everyone in the family, especially to me. After years of unresolved tension and inappropriate advances towards Victor, her decision to settle down with Matt, a colleague she had met at a writing workshop, seemed like the fresh start she needed. It sparked a flicker of hope in my heart that maybe, just maybe, her obsession with Victor would finally come to an end. The wedding was set in a charming vineyard, with sprawling views and a sunset that painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was a beautiful day, and Victor and I made a conscious effort to put the past behind us and fully support Delaney on her special day. We arrived with genuine smiles, bearing gifts and best wishes, clinging to our cautious optimism. As the ceremony unfolded, I watched Delaney walk down the aisle, radiant and seemingly in love, and I felt a sense of relief wash over me. Victor squeezed my hand, sharing a silent moment of hope that this new chapter might mend the old wounds her actions had inflicted on our relationship. The reception was lively, filled with music, laughter, and dancing. It was during these festive moments that I dared to believe that our family dynamics could truly heal. Victor and I mingled with guests, celebrating, participating in toasts, and enjoying the evening's joyous atmosphere. Victor excused himself from the reception, feeling the need for a breath of fresh air. The garden was serene, bathed in the soft glow of lanterns, casting a romantic yet inappropriately timed ambiance. The cool night air and the faint shimmer of stars provided a tranquil escape from the festive chaos inside. Moments later, the sound of rustling fabric signaled Delaney's arrival. Her presence changed the atmosphere, filling it with palpable tension. As she approached, the lanterns illuminated her face, revealing a blend of determination and vulnerability that made Victor's heart race. "Victor, can we talk?" she asked, her voice a sultry whisper that resonated with the gentle night breeze. Her laughter, light and haunting, hinted at the seriousness of her intentions. They walked along the garden path, the scent of night-blooming flowers surrounding them. Delaney paused and turned to face Victor, her eyes locking onto his in the dim light. "I need to be honest with you," she whispered, stepping closer, her breath warm against his skin. "Even now, on my wedding day, it's you I can't stop thinking about. I still love you, Victor." Before Victor could react, Delaney leaned in and kissed him, her lips pressing firmly against his in a bold declaration of her unresolved feelings. The kiss was a mix of desperation and deep-seated longing that left Victor momentarily stunned. With a firm but gentle push, Victor broke the kiss. "Delaney, this isn't right," he insisted, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "You're married now, and we both need to respect that. I'm committed to Layla, and we cannot do this." Delaney's expression flickered with a mix of regret and defiance. "I had to let you know," she said, stepping back, her voice softening. "I guess some feelings don't just go away." As Victor watched her retreat back to the celebration, he felt a mixture of relief and guilt. The weight of the night's drama hung heavily on him as he prepared to rejoin the festivities under the indifferent stars, knowing he would soon have to face the consequences of this unexpected encounter. He returned to the reception, visibly shaken, and found me. With a heavy heart, he relayed the entire encounter, reigniting the old wounds and suspicions that had just begun to heal. My initial shock quickly turned into a deep, throbbing ache, a mix of anger, sadness, and betrayal. How could Delaney do this again, especially on her own wedding day? How could she still not respect the boundaries we had fought so hard to maintain? The rest of the evening was a blur. While we stayed until the end of the reception, my mind was elsewhere, tangled in a mess of emotions. The ride home was quiet, both of us lost in our thoughts, processing the implications of what had just occurred. Delaney's actions were a stark reminder that her patterns hadn't changed, despite her new marital status. The hope we had harbored earlier that day had been dashed in a matter of moments, leaving us to reconsider how we could possibly move forward with her in our lives. The incident not only reopened old wounds, but also posed new questions about our future interactions with her. The morning following Delaney's wedding was heavy with unspoken words and a palpable tension between Victor and me. The joy of the previous day had dissipated, replaced by a brewing storm of emotions that neither of us could easily navigate. After a night of little sleep and much discussion, I knew I needed to confront Delaney about her actions. It wasn't just about her inappropriate behavior towards Victor anymore. It was about the respect and boundaries she continuously disrespected. I called Delaney, asking to meet her privately. When we sat down at a local coffee shop, the air was thick with the anticipation of a difficult conversation. Delaney appeared calm, perhaps too calm, which only fueled my anxiety about how she might react. "Delaney," I started, my voice firmer than I felt. "What happened last night was completely unacceptable. Not only did you disrespect your own wedding, but you disrespected my marriage. Again." Delaney looked at me, her expression one of feigned confusion. "Layla, I think you're blowing things out of proportion. It was just a moment of weakness. I didn't mean anything by it." "A moment of weakness?" I echoed incredulously. "Delaney, this isn't the first time. How many times do we have to go through this? How many times do we have to set boundaries that you continue to ignore?" She shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her eyes darting away before settling back on me. "I told you, I love him. I can't help how I feel." "But you can help how you act," I countered sharply. "And it's clear you have no regard for anyone's feelings but your own." The conversation escalated quickly, voices raising slightly as emotions ran high. Delaney accused me of overreacting and trying to control her life, while I insisted on respect and boundaries that she owed to both her sister and her brother-in-law. It ended with Delaney storming out, leaving me alone with my swirling thoughts and a heavy heart. The fallout was immediate and painful. When word of the confrontation and its reasons spread within the family, it reignited old divisions and created new ones. Our parents were devastated by the revelation and the ensuing conflict. They had hoped Delaney's marriage would mark the beginning of a peaceful chapter, not another round of familial discord. They tried to mediate, but their attempts were clumsy, often making things worse. They wanted to believe Delaney's version, that it was all a misunderstanding fueled by misplaced feelings. Amid this turmoil, Victor and I grew closer, bound by our shared resolve to protect our marriage. We understood more than ever that the strength of our union rested on our ability to confront challenges together, even when those challenges came from those we loved. But as we fortified our boundaries, we grieved the familial harmony we once hoped to nurture, now tainted by betrayal and misunderstanding. The path forward was unclear, and while we were committed to each other, the shadow of Delaney's actions loomed large, threatening the peace we so desperately sought. The months following Delaney's wedding were a whirlwind of suppressed emotions and tense family gatherings. Victor and I tried to maintain a facade of normalcy for the sake of family peace, but the strain was palpable. It reached its climax during a seemingly innocuous family reunion at our parents' house, an event that was meant to bring everyone together, but instead served as the battleground for the final confrontation. As the evening wore on, the atmosphere thickened with unspoken words. I noticed Delaney had been unusually quiet, her glances towards Victor more frequent and laden with an unsettling intent. When Victor excused himself to the backyard to catch a breath of fresh air, Delaney seized her opportunity and followed him, her steps quick and determined. Alone under the shadow of an old oak tree, away from the eyes and ears of the family, Delaney confronted Victor. Her voice, thick with emotion, broke the evening stillness. "Victor, I can't hold this back anymore," she confessed, her hands trembling as she reached for his. "I need more than just acceptance. I need you." Before Victor could react, Delaney's desperation took a physical form. She pulled him close, her actions bolder and more forceful than ever before. She tried to kiss him, her movements aggressive, as she sought to turn her long-held fantasies into reality. Victor's response was immediate and forceful. He pushed her away with all the strength he could muster, his voice a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Delaney, this has to stop now. What are you doing? You're married, and I am committed to Layla. This is not just inappropriate, it's wrong on every level." Stunned by his rejection and the finality in his voice, Delaney's face crumpled, her desperation turning to indignation. "You could have had me, all these years, and you choose her over me every single time." Victor rushed back inside, his expression grim, finding me in the kitchen. His recount of the incident left me reeling with shock and fury. The realization that Delaney had not only crossed a line but sprinted past it with no regard for the consequences was a cold wake-up call. This wasn't just an infatuation, it was an obsession that threatened the very fabric of our marriage. The next day, after a long, emotional discussion, Victor and I made the painful decision to cut ties with Delaney. We could no longer allow her behavior to undermine our relationship or our mental health. We informed our parents of our decision, explaining that while it hurt us deeply, we needed to protect the sanctity of our marriage. Our parents were heartbroken, torn between their daughters, but unable to deny the seriousness of the situation. While they tried to plead Delaney's case, suggesting therapy and reconciliation, we stood firm. It was one of the hardest decisions we ever made, but it was necessary. From that day on, Victor and I embarked on a path of healing, slowly rebuilding the trust and peace that Delaney's obsession had eroded. We focused on strengthening our bond, supporting each other through the fallout of our decision. Though the absence of Delaney at family events was a poignant reminder of the rift, we knew we had made the right choice. In the quiet solitude of our shared life, away from the drama and pain, we found a renewed sense of partnership. The scars from the past remained, a testament to the trials we had overcome, but they also marked the depth of our commitment to each other. Our future was uncertain, and while we mourned the family harmony that once was, we faced forward, hand in hand, united against whatever might come.